Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning or good evening to our lecturer, Dr. Asad. Today, I am Muhammad Farah Nakwi and my friend Muhammad Gaddafi will present about migration and development case study of Indonesia and Philippines. First, we look at the summary executive for our group report. Nowadays, migration is not something unusual for all of us because everyone want to find a better opportunity. That's why around 640 million people worldwide are migrate for better economy and social opportunities, which are mainly driven by the economic factor, political factor, as well as the environmental factors. And we look at Indonesia and the Philippines as a study case, which is these two nations is Southeast Asia's largest labor-centric countries. They have a similarity, which is they in an ASEAN context, and also in this report, our group report will compare the migration patterns about how the government's frameworks and also developmental outcomes between both countries. And also in this, our group report also found that there is high economic dependency, especially on remittance, and there is some effect that cause the brain drain. There is a social fragmentation as well as structural inequalities. And yeah, our group also will identify the policy gaps and integrate the conventional and Islamic economic frameworks for comprehensive migration solutions. Yeah, let's see as a general what is the comparative analysis. The first, we in the both country, Indonesia and the Philippines, we found that there is some similarity in the comparative analysis, which is the first one is migration scale and economic significance. The second, push pull factors. Third, remittance and economic impact. The fourth, social costs and family fragmentations. And the last one is brain drain and human capital lost. All right, let's see the first one, which is a migration scale and economic significance. The first one, we look at the migration scale for the Philippines. There's approximately 10.8 million workers that works abroad that generate 8.3% of its GDP in 2024. Meanwhile, Indonesia have a larger population and approximately over 10% of its population works abroad. And the four policy approach, Philippines use proactive state manage, which is they have a framework that well managed to build economic development strategy. Meanwhile, Indonesia have a policy approach that reactive response to structural economic challenges, as well as demographic pressure that create economic dependency rather than strategic development. For the institutional framework, Philippines have institutional based framework, which is protected by RA 11641. Meanwhile, Indonesia have lacked similar proactive system. For the migration drivers, the Philippines have institutionalized labor export. However, there is some also some other drivers such as the imbalances, environmental risk, and same goes to the Indonesia. They also have a demographic pressures, poverty, regional development imbalances in internal that push them to do international migration. For the policy foundation, the policy have been found since 1970s. However, Indonesia, the policy foundation only driven by the demographic pressure and poverty rather than a systematic export policies. All right, next we look at the push-pull factors in convergent mechanisms. And there is three major factors, which is economic, environmental, as well as the social. First, we look at the economic push factors. For the Philippines, they have a low wages, high unemployment rates, and also have a big wage gap between the rich and the poor. And for the Indonesia, they have a same similar issue actually. They have a limited job opportunities and they have insufficient income levels and they also have high poverty rates. And this actually show the similarity that the both country is driven by economic deprivation and lack of domestic opportunities. And next, we look at the economic pull factors, which is for the Philippines. Usually, they attract to get the higher wages in the Gulf nations, East Asia, and as well as the other developed countries like in Euro. And they also fulfill the demand in the secondary labor markets, especially in construction, domestic work, and agriculture. However, there's actually a lot of highly educated people such as nurse and doctor also work in the hospital in other developed countries. And for these economic pull factors for the Indonesia also have a similar issues or the similar aim. Actually, they Indonesian have migrate to get a higher wage, especially in a destination like Taiwan, that have a structural demand for migrant workers, especially in the secondary markets. And this actually shows the similarity with both countries have attracted by significantly higher wages and labor demand in the destination countries. Also, the working condition that it's risk and tough. And next, we look at the environmental pressures in the Philippines. They also face the high susceptibility to the typhoons, earthquakes, um, volcanic eruption that affect their social economy. And as well as Indonesia also have a same environmental pressures like earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruption, flood that will affect their livelihoods. And this actually shows the similarity between them. They have go to the migrate to other country that have better because of the natural disaster that push them to have to migrate for economic recovery and resilience. Next, we look at the social mechanisms or the social factors. For the Philippines, they have a well-managed system or the well-managed migration, which is they have a lot of diaspora networks that help to facilitate the new migration through good information. They have good financial support as well as a settlement assistance. Meanwhile, Indonesia, they only have a imitation effect, which is they only heard about their neighbor success, how their neighbor success to change the social economic opportunity for their families, that at the end will influence others to migrate solo or also with families. And this also show the similarity, which is the migration is reinforced through the social networks and also through the success story. For the last one is a regional pattern, which is both country have both same reflect of regional migration patterns, which is driven by economic inequalities. All right, we look at the next comparative analysis, which is remittances and economic impact. First, we look at the aspect of remittance scale, which is the Philippines approximately have give 10% of the national GDP from the remittance. Meanwhile, Indonesia also have a same. They have remitter also give a significant contribution to the GDP, and which become the major sources of the foreign exchange and as well as the household income for both countries. And the for household usage, usually remittance will be used for especially in the Philippines is for the consumption, for the healthcare access, education, as well as to reduce the poverty. Meanwhile, in the Indonesia is mainly used for building houses, new houses, purchasing vehicles, and cultivating the land. Also, give a good education to their children, food security, healthcare, and these remittances actually improve the household welfare and as well as to increase and invest the human capital. And there's also like the similarity in the trend pattern, which is Philippines also shows increasing the remittance flow and growing economic dependency. And also Indonesia also have same issues that both countries have increasing dependency on remittance over the time. All right, next we look at the government role. For the Philippines, Philippines government is becoming the centralistic regime which is promote labor export that to contribute the national income. Meanwhile, Indonesia also have a same issues, which is they promote labor export rather than solve the issues in their local markets, such as create new job, reduce the income disparities, to reduce income inequalities, overcome the environmental issues, because both governments have made the migration as their main economic strategy and development tool. And this lead to the structural dependency problem, which is, yeah, like I also said that there is a high economic dependency, like 34 billion annual for the Philippines and Indonesia. Also create dependency that actually create the development trap that just there's no permanent gains. There's the only short-term gains for their Indonesian economics, and this issue actually makes the remittance actually become the welfare system that constrain domestic job creation and economic diversification from the government. And this actually, like I said, will lead to development trap, which is the Philippines. The This remittance become the short-term household welfare improvement that will shadow the long-term structural weaknesses, as well as in Indonesia, the heavy reliance to remittance. If there is no remittance for their family, so their family cannot change their social economic factors in their family. So both actually at the end will increase the unemployment in the local market. But however, from the remittance they generate the foreign exchange, that so actually this really bad issues, or really a serious matter that government to take and create an initiative to build a genuine economic transition for their local market. All right, now we look at the social cost and family fragmentation. First, we look at the migration scale impact, which is this migration will causing the widespread family separation in Philippines, and as well as in Indonesia, there is also social fragmentation, which is at the end, the both country has a mass migration that creates substantial social costs in the both countries, and this will lead to the family separation effects, which is changes in the family dynamics in Philippines. Meanwhile, Indonesia, there is the issue of vested care or care crisis due to long-term separation from the partners, and even separation of the parents from the children. This actually at the end will affecting the household in the both country, household structure in the both country. And the first psychological impacts in the Philippines give a psychological impact to the families that left behind. And for Indonesia, our report found that there is a psychological stress, loneliness, a lack of parental guidance, because the children is separate from the parent, and this actually in the both country at the end will have a risk of mental health and relationship strain on the separated families. All right, next we look at the aspect of migrant challenges in destination countries. For the Philippines, they actually do not have a specific focus on the migrant challenges in destination country. However, they have generalized the issue or the impact, which is this there's a social risk and exploitation, and as well as goes Indonesia, but Indonesia face also face other issues like discrimination, and also have difficulties to integrate in destination countries. Next, we look at the children's issue. For the Philippines, they do not have a specific focus on the issue, but however, they have generalized the issue becomes like there's a psychological stress for the children, there's a separation the parents for the children. Meanwhile, for Indonesia, also have the same issue, but Indonesia issues is more serious, which is include the statelessness for the children that will deny the citizenship recognition, that will limit the access to education, healthcare, employment, and freedom of movement. And this actually will give the long-term consequences, which is for the Philippines. They have ongoing family dynamics change that give a psychological effect like stress. And for Indonesia, for the long-term statelessness especially, these issues will create the new vulnerable populations. And this actually both countries have the social cost issue that extend beyond the immediate economic benefits. Next, comparative analysis is brain drain and human capital loss. First, look at the skilled professional loss. For the Philippines, they lost the professional like teachers, nurses, doctors, engineers, and also other educated professional. As well as in Indonesia, they have a similar issue that highly educated people will migrate to the other developed nations, and this actually shows there is loss of skilled human capital that crucial for the national development. And the next aspect is we look at the technical workforce loss, which is Philippines has lost a lot of mid-level technicians that important for their innovation in the country, in the local market. Our Indonesia do not have a specific focus on that. However, will they provide the generalized issues that they have issues. The technical workforce has reduced the capacity for the innovation and productivity. And for the Philippines, in the aspect of returning integration problem, yeah, they have skill and experience gain in the developed country. But however, when they return to the country, they fail to apply that skills in their local market, because their framework is only their migration framework actually do not fully maximize the returns, and actually we repeated the migration cycles. For Indonesia, they do not have a specific focus on that, but however, they capture there is a failure to capitalize on the returnee or the return human capital. All right, next we look at the developmental consequences for the Philippines in the Indonesia. There is healthcare shortages and also educational deficit, as well as we reduce the innovation capability. Then this will lead to the economic cost, which is the bare cost of educating workers is by the origin country, and but that worker is contribute the productive years to the foreign economies. All right, now we move to the policy implication and governance challenges that include structural economic failures, governance and institutional gaps, internal migration and spatial development challenges, current policy measure and limitation in the Philippine migration policy, and current policy measures and their limitation in Indonesia's policy, and also how does the Islamic economic perspective help reframe or support the solution. And this further explanation will be given by my friend Muhammad Gaddafi.
Okay, I proceed the slide about the policy implication and the government challenge. Okay, there are two aspects. I proceed, and another aspect will go to the another slide. Okay, first aspect, I will present about the structural economic failure. Okay, we can see that the Filipina and Indonesia have the similarity about the how limited job opportunity, low income, uh, high unemployment, significant wages differential happen in this post country. Common issue is some insufficient quality unemployment creation workers earn 5 until 10 times more abroad policy address symptom manage flow protection remittance not good cost job creation wages disparities. And about the another aspect is about the policy approach problem framework perpetuate migration rather than transforming migration for development. Reaction rather than strategy approach growing population in Indonesia. The common issue is about the post-create economy dependency and migration instead the domestic market transformation. Okay, next. About the aspect, another aspect is about the government gap. Okay, in Filipina, the weak enforcement of bilateral agreement, limited monitoring in destination countries, insufficient reintegration support the national uh, reintegration center of OFWs and RCO. In Indonesia, the situation is about the exploitation, unpaid wages, lack of the legal protection, weak borders, monitoring despite strict licensing, for equipment, agency, geographical challenge limit enforcement. Common issue is about the implementation get expose workers to vulnerability, repeated migration cycle due to inadequate reintegration. And another aspect is about the migration related change. About this, about the economic interdependency from the Philippine side, and also about the non-procedure backward migration via illegal channel and responsibility middle that driven migration for the Indonesia. The common issue that you can see there is about the workers' exploitation without adequate legal protection, bilateral agreement have implementation gap. Okay, okay. For this, right, it's about the another two aspect. Is about the internal migration impact and also the policy framework. Okay, for the internal migration impact for Filipina, it's about the less severe man, disaster driver, typhoon. It's about the uh, uh, natural disaster lah. Like typhoon, like the more on the disaster lah. Same as about the Indonesia. As we look at the Jawa Barat, Jawa Barat itself as the many disaster, natural disaster lah, about that lah. The common issue is about the internet migration affect spatial development. Indonesia more severely affected lah. About the policy framework, you will see from the RA 11641 2022 is about the policy framework lah for the Filipina, and also the Indonesia about the Perda Basnas PWI for poverty, and also about the TKI. What is the TKI? TKI is about the tenaga kerja Indonesia. Common issue is about the comprehensive framework exists, but with the significant limitation in effectiveness and enforcement. Okay, yeah, okay, I repeat three slides. Okay, first is about the aspect such as economic failure, policy approach problem, and aspect about the government gaps, negation related challenge. Okay, and finally, it's about the international migration impact and policy framework. Okay. Okay, for the about the how does the Islamic economic perspective have reframe the support solution? How much? Okay, the problem of migration, whether it's the internal migration or the external migration within the country, Filipina or Indonesia, or the outside country, they have Islamic have the good solution. Firstly, it's about the principle of justice adalah. Okay, and also the principle of welfare, and also the principle of ukhuwah, darurah, and also the uh, principle of prohibited exploitation. Okay, for adalah, as mentioned, the apa tu, uh, when the some country have the take uh, muhajirin lah, like the apa tu, migration to the country to have the job and so on. Uh, for the justice, we must have the good aspect lah to deal with them. We deal with them like the human. We give the good facility and so on lah. And so on about the when the migration back to their home, the country like Filipina and Indonesia must have the good concern lah to help them. Okay, for the maslahah, therefore there is about the emphasis on social justice and equitable distribution, and also institution mechanisms such as zakat and wakaf. We know that the zakat and wakaf can help to boost the economy and help the people that have the unequal income lah and have the poorest. Okay, and also the promote dignity, solidarity, and community participation, and also the migrant needs go beyond material sustenance. Okay, third is about the principle of social solidarity. It's about the ukhuwah. Ukhuwah lah, whether migration and the local country like the Malaysia, Singapore, and so on must have the good ukhuwah with them. As the no. That's why in Malaysia more of migration is more the Muslim lah like that lah. Muslim like the Indonesia because the related of religion and so on. There's of necessity of darurah is about the need, but because of that, uh, before that I have told that the Filipina and the Indonesia have the uh, non-income, poor, and so on. That's why they going to the to make the hijrah lah, to migration to the another country. Prohibited exploitation is about the labor practices, usury, and a form of operation is prohibited in Islam. Okay, for the policy measure and solution, I divided to three. Firstly, it's about the suggestion realistic evidence, best implementation, policy action. Second is about the incorporate economy development, framework government, consideration and country-specific context. And finally, it's about the purpose Islamic finance or social economy policy instrument. Okay. For the suggestion realistic evidence-based implementation policy action, firstly is about there are many word lah. Firstly about the create pathway for migration for a range of education and regional background. Second, social protection mechanism for migrant workers. Third, promoting rapid reintegration of returning migrants. Ni for the migrant come back to home lah. Okay, digital platform to match returning migrant with the domestic employment opportunity to settle about the unemployment and so on. Migration policy must be integrated into the broader national regional development strategy. Target intervention for vulnerable groups. Their establishment of regional migration framework, information sharing and standardization. Focus on the natural disaster management policy is important because this both country, Filipina and Indonesia, have the natural disaster. Collaboration with the economic institution and international organization in terms of the research, solution, and making the new policy lah. Uh, Going to make the Indonesian decision to help to solve the problem on migration. Okay, so for the incorporate economic development framework, government consideration and country-specific context, the development of proprietary framework for the managing human capital, whether through health, education, or labor migration, is increasing seen as a source of the competitive advantage. Second, effective government governance is essential for the maximizing the developmental benefit of migration while mitigating risks such as exploitation, trafficking, and social location, National Agency for the Placement and Protection of Indonesian Migrant Workers from the Badan Nasional Penempatan dan Perlindungan Tenaga Kerja Indonesia BNP2 TKI and the Filipina Overseas Employment Administration POEA. Indonesia and the Philippines, moreover, has been making proactive effort toward bilateral labor agreement with another country and within the country or within the state with the key destination countries that include minimum wages, social protection, and dispute resolution. And finally, the slide is about the purpose, Islamic finance and social policy instrument. First, more is about the philanthropic social finance. It's about the zakat, wakaf, and qardul hasan, and also the sukuk have the particular relevant to addressing the socio-economic driver of migration. And also the wakaf endowment, vocational training center has been established in migrant standing area, equipment potential migrant and return with marketable skill. Indonesia has a pioneer digital zakat and wakaf platform. Okay. Islamic microfinance institution offer the Qardul Hasan and Murabahah based loan to support the entrepreneur activity among migrant family and return Wakaf protect the Mindanao. Okay, we say Mindanao because Mindanao more have many Muslim lah at Filipina. Has been direct to build social infrastructure such as school and health clinics. Okay. Um, Finally, for it's about the thank you. Okay, for the listening. Okay, for the conclusion. Okay. Uh, the migration is not the new issue. Migration is the uh, world issue, uh, and they must be settled by the procedure and the policy in the Filipina or Indonesia and other country. Like in Malaysia also, Malaysia going to Singapore. Singapore, uh, go to Singapore and back to Johor, like that lah. Uh, this about the across the country, like the Kelantanis and Terengganu are going to the Kuala Lumpur and Selangor to go into job. It's happened in Malaysia also. Not in Indonesia in the Filipina, but Malaysia not have the problem about the natural disaster. Only at the Kelantan and Terengganu and Pahang have the flood uh, flood in the November or December lah, like that. But it's not the difficult or more uh, barriers lah for Malaysia lah, like Indonesia and the Filipina. Okay. The good of policy must align to the what of the Islamic teaching. Okay, Islamic teaching. Okay, the country government of the country for the Filipina for Indonesia must look forward to settle about the issue of migration, and uh, if they want their people go to migrate to another country, they must have the good win-win situation, benefit to the country at the near future for the generation in for Indonesia and Filipina. Okay, that's all for my presentation and my friend. Thank you for listening. Okay, I hope this presentation will make the clear understanding about the issue of migration, and I hope you all enjoy for my presentation. Okay, thank you.